Hi everybody, welcome. Um, my name's Felicity Wallace. This is my first time recording a webinar, so I hope it goes all right, and you can bear with me. And so yeah, I'm an educational and child psychologist working in Waltham Forest part-time, and the reason that our team were asked to run this webinar on wellbeing was because we've been rolling out this government wellbeing webinars to all school staff, primaries and secondaries, which was really about trying to prioritise wellbeing of everyone on return from the initial lockdown last year. So I'm going to use a bit of the materials from that, and then also some other stuff that we have to hopefully work with you in these 45 minutes about your own well-being. And yeah, I'm gonna just say, obviously the webinar format means that it can't be interactive, unfortunately. So what I'm going to try and do though, because I think it's most useful if it can be interactive and if you can try and engage with the materials, is I'm going to offer lots of sort of reflection tasks and some things that I'd love for you to do with me, so hopefully make it most worthwhile. So if you have like a pen and paper with you, that might be useful. I know that you can't introduce yourselves, but I know that you are possibly all attending from different roles and different circumstances, across different settings as well. So, obviously how you feel and how well supported you are, how well connected to other people depend on, your workplace, and whether you're in a team or whether you're working on your own. So I'm going to really try and make the webinar relevant to all your different roles, and hopefully you can take from it what works for you and what fits with your kind of context as well. And yeah, obviously there's a Q&A at the end for when this is going to be played, so that would be brilliant to speak to you then, because obviously you're all experts in wellbeing and working in the early years. So, if there is opportunities in that Q&A for you to share ideas about what you're already doing, then that might be really useful to other people working in the early years. So hopefully we'll get a chance to have that at the end. So, I'm going to move on to just outline the aims and outcomes from this webinar. I'm going to start off with just a brief sort of chat about wellbeing in the early years, and hopefully sort of get you to define, if you haven't already in your mind, what it means to you. And then I'm going to use a model of well-being to hopefully give you an opportunity to reflect upon your personal current state and kind of assess where are you at with your well-being at the moment in a more sort of formal way than you might already have a sense of. And then lastly, try and have a chance for you to plan for ways in which you might want to improve your well-being. And also, if you do work in a team in a nursery or another setting, what you might, whether all your team members are here or if you are going back to your team to share from the early years festival, what you might do as a team. And even if you are kind of a childminding or a nanny and you feel kind of on your own, I hope that you do have some sort of community of other people doing the same role in your area. So it might be about getting together and thinking, how can you support each other's well-being? So I guess what I'd love for you to leave this webinar with is, firstly, so there's the outcomes, have a tool for ongoing reflection, because I think it's really important to prioritise always thinking about and knowing where you're at with your well-being. And then just a plan for, is there anything you want to do or change or do more of or start doing that might help improve your well-being. So those are the aims and outcomes. So, like I said, I just wanted to kind of recognise the context of well-being in the early years, and yeah, just to say thank you as well, first of all, because as key workers during this time, which has been going on so long now, you have really like kept society going, you know, along with NHS staff. You've been working all the way through this, and whether that's been scary, whether it's been, you know, hard work anyway in your jobs, just really appreciate what you're doing for us. So I hope you feel appreciated. You know, I couldn't be working if my little toddler wasn't in nursery now, and just think it's amazing what early years staff are doing for everyone in the country during lockdown. So big thank you. And then just to define, okay, I'm going to be talking about well-being and mental health, and I guess, you know, in terms of the terminology, when I speak about well-being, that's your general sense of how good you feel, how well you are, how positive you feel about life. And when we talk about mental health as a term, that's more in terms of like signs and symptoms and things that might be signaling mental illness. So sometimes those words are used interchangeably, but that's kind of the definitions that I'm going to use today. And obviously, you know, well-being and mental health can be a difficult topic to talk about and maybe bring up a range of different emotions. So obviously, you know, if that happens for you and you don't feel it's for you, or you want to take a break, do whatever you need to do. And obviously, if you know, I hope that, you know, we're talking about well-being on a more general level in this webinar. So I hope that, you know, if you do have any sort of more serious worries about mental health, then you know, I hope that you know the channels in which you can get support for that, you know, through your GP, or there is, I've put on the slide there, an organisation called the Education Support that has a free helpline for all education staff in case you need it there. Also to say that I will be speaking from a cultural viewpoint of mainly like UK based secular approaches. So I understand that for other people, well-being might be, you might define it differently, and it's a shame that we can't have a chance to share any of your different perspectives and approaches, but just to recognise that the tools I'll be using in this webinar are mainly from the UK. And yeah, I just also want to kind of respect and acknowledge that you're all adults who spent your whole lives, you know, managing your own well-being and your mental health, and probably that of other people and possibly children as well. So, you know, it might not be there's anything new for you in this webinar, but hopefully, even if there isn't anything new in the ideas I share, you know, there's a dedicated time and space for you to think about your well-being, and hopefully that'll be useful for you. And I guess I wanted to just recognise the context of the pandemic. You know, on top of you having to work throughout it and be key workers, everyone is experiencing their own personal challenges associated with lockdown, associated with potentially loss and illness, having stresses on your life, having to homeschool, so many things you're having to juggle potentially, and you know, that's on top of the context of working in early years as well. You know, can be a very demanding job, as you know, obviously looking after the very young. You know, your role is one that needs lots of energy. It's very giving, high levels of responsibility. Looking after children can be highly emotional because you're dealing with extreme emotions of the young who can't sort of self-regulate yet. And in your settings, you know, it's not like a workplace where you can, you know, go and make yourself a cup of tea whenever you want, go to the toilet, go out for lunch. You're always on, and I can imagine that, you know, if you walk through the door, that's, you know, suddenly you've got all these little people, or if they walk through your door, you've got these people who need you, and you have to be, you know, in your role at all times. You know, you're also dealing with parents, and parents are going through a lot of stress at the moment, so I can imagine that might be something you're taking on and holding for them. if you're working in your own home as a workplace, as a childminder or nanny in someone else's home, that can be really isolating. And it's isolating anyway to be at home with your own children, and then to have that as your job as well. So I guess, yeah, I guess I wanted to kind of ask you to have a think about what are the biggest challenges to your well-being from working in the early years during COVID-19. I was going to ask you to do this on the chat, which we were originally going to have, but just going to give you a minute to think about that. So I wonder if there are things that I already talked about, or if there's things I've missed there that are kind of your biggest challenges at the moment to your well-being. And I guess, so the reason why I kind of asked you to think about that, not to be depressing and just focus on the negatives, but I guess sometimes it can feel overwhelming and there's so many different things going on at once. And so sometimes just knowing your biggest challenges or the aspects you find most difficult at the moment can be the first step in finding ways to counteract them, or ways to kind of, if your biggest challenges are certain times of the day or different stress points when certain things happen, it can be good to know, because then there can be ways you can prioritize sort of de-stressing or kind of filling your cup, they say it sometimes, at those particularly difficult points during the day or as part of the work. So I'm not going to always focus on the negatives now for the rest of the webinar, but because obviously there's so many positive aspects of working in early years, probably reasons why you're doing it, and things that bring joy, peace, and feelings of wellness. The fact that you're in such a giving role and making it such a difference in young people's lives at the beginning of their lives, when it's so important. So hopefully, we can highlight those, work on those, and the aim is to leave the session, the webinar, kind of feeling positive about ways to cope with the challenges that you do face. Sorry if I keep looking at the camera and then sometimes looking at my notes, so if it looks weird, I apologise for that, but I think I'm quite small on your screen anyway. Let's have a think about your personal well-being then. We're going to use this model from the NHS to assess where you're at with your current well-being. So this model basically is called the Ways to Wellbeing. You've probably seen it before. I know they use it in Waltham Forest as a council quite a bit, but basically they did some research and they believe that there's 5 key things that can really have a positive impact on your well-being. So even though we're talking about well-being within work in the early years settings, I think it can be really hard at the best of times to separate work and life, especially now when there's not much other opportunities for other things in your life. So when I ask you to reflect on your well-being, if you could think about kind of just your general well-being, so both in work and life, that's probably going to be the easiest, but you can just focus on work if you want to. And obviously this is going to be, it's just something for you, a task for you to do, so you're not going to have to share it with anyone. So please, be as honest as possible, and just to say you can interpret it in the way that is most useful for you as well. So I'm going to talk through each of these. What I'd love you to do is, depending on how sort of you work, if you're like a really visual person, what you could do is you could draw like a wheel like this on the screen, and this is something that's often used in coaching psychology. So it's like they often break they call it the wheel of life, and they break down your life into different sections, and then when you assess each one or rate it, you can colour it in a certain amount, so you've got a visual representation of where you're at. But if that doesn't sound like it works for you, you can literally just write out a heading for each one and rate it separately. So yeah, I'm going to talk through what each of the 5 ways to well-being are, and then I'm going to ask you, can you, as I'm talking and explaining them, can you think about that in your own life and give yourself a rating out of 5? So you'd give yourself a 0 out of 5 if you feel like you don't have any part of that aspect in your life, or you might give yourself a 5 out of 5 if you feel like you're totally fulfilled in that area of your life. Obviously you can do it out of 10 if you prefer to have a bit more give in there. So I'm going to talk through them, and I'm going to start with the one that's be active. So obviously being physically active is amazing for your physical health, but also your mental well-being. You know, it can help raise your self-esteem, can help you if you have goals or challenges with your physical activity and then you achieve them. It can be great, and we know it causes, you know, chemical changes in your brain, you know, releasing endorphins that can positively change your mood. So your jobs working with little ones are likely to be really active anyway, but when I want you to rate this, I want you to think about, is this the kind of being active that you really enjoy? You know, is that what you get the most out of? You know, or would you like more opportunities to be active, not just in your job, but in other ways? I know that's quite limited at the moment for doing it outside or indoors, going for walks, even sort of stretching and feeling alive in your body. Or do you feel like you've got enough of that in your life? If you could rate yourself out of 5 for being active, that'd be great. The next one is about connecting with other people. So, you know, research shows that having good relationships with others and opportunities to connect is really good for your well-being, because, you know, you can have a sense of belonging, self-worth, you can get emotional support and provide emotional support. So, you know, obviously the fact that you're actually in workplaces or working at the moment might be a benefit to the fact that you might get to connect with people a bit more than if you were just doing sort of an office job based at home. But, you know, when you rate this, please think about, you know, the quality of your connections and how much connection are you getting with the people who matter most to you at the moment. You know, do you ever get to sit down and have a cup of tea or eat lunch with somebody else who you work with? Do you get to chat with any other adults in the day if you're a childminder? You know, maybe if you take the children to the park, or if you're out and about. How much energy do you have in the evenings to connect with, like, either loved ones at home or over the phone? If you could rate yourself out of 5 for how much connection you have in your life at the moment, that would be really great. Okay, the next one is about giving to others. So, you know, research shows that giving and being kind to others can, you know, be really good for your well-being, give you a sense of purpose and self-worth. So this is an interesting one for you to rate, because your jobs are all about giving all the time. So I wonder, do you feel like you do get enough of that in your life, or would you like opportunities to be doing it in another context, not just at work? You know, for example, for some people it's really important for them to be helping in their communities, or, you know, something big like that. For others it can be, you know, do you have opportunities to give to others in smaller ways that could be just as impactful, like, you know, saying thank you to someone for something they've done for you, being able to ask friends or families or colleagues how they are and actually have time and headspace for yourself to really listen to them, or just supporting other people that you're close to. You can rate yourself for give. The fourth one is it says keep learning. So it's about learning new things and feeling like you're developing as a person can be really good for your well-being. You know, make you feel more confident, have a sense of purpose, often leads to connections with other people as well. So this is another aspect where I guess, you probably get a lot of in your job anyway, because you're always having to do CPD, you're always constantly planning and watching children and having ideas for their development from that. But again, is this what you want to be developing and learning, or is there other things in life that you'd want to have more opportunities with to learn? Ways to spend your free time, or learning new hobbies, for example. So if you could rate yourself for that one. And then the last one is it's called Take Notice. So it's basically like, the idea is paying attention to the present moment, being present, and not just away with your thoughts, worrying about what's going to happen next, consumed with something that's happened earlier, but actually being there. Some people call it being mindful. Other people might think it's about actually like noticing things around you and appreciating them. But this is supposed to be another thing that's really good for your well-being. And yeah, I guess it can. The idea is it can help you enjoy life more, understand yourself a bit better. And so this could be like noticing every day. So like, just, I don't know, if you are walking for work, or you're walking to work or getting outside, just noticing how, beautiful the sunlight is, or how nice a flower is along the walk. That's something, I guess, if you're with little ones, they can sometimes help you see, as they're not as kind of consumed with the future or the past as adults are. Or you could actually do like, mindfulness techniques. I know that the app called Headspace is free for all teachers at the moment. I wonder if that extends to early years. I hope it does. You can get like free apps that kind of talk you through being mindful. So yeah, if you could rate yourself on that would be helpful. So hopefully you've got 5 ratings out of 5 now. Now, what I'd love you to do next is, okay, think about, out of those 5 areas, which area would you really like more of in your life, and that you think will improve your overall well-being. So it might be the area that you've rated the lowest, or it might be the area that you think, oh, if I had more of that, that would make me a lot happier. So choose one area that you think would really contribute to your well-being. And then what I'd love you to do is, so that's the first question, but look at these 5 questions, and I'd love you to work through these. I'm going to give you like a few minutes to do it, if you don't mind. So what area would you like to improve? How would you improve it? And I'm really making you go into detail with these questions, because the more detail you think about it with, the more likely you are to do something. So how are you going to improve it? Are you going to make sure you call at least one really close friend who makes you feel good once a week? Are you going to make sure you get out for a walk every day? Whatever it is, from whatever area, be specific. And then what's the first or easiest step you could take? So you're going to write a list of the people who you want to call across the next 4 weeks. Are you going to plan a route for a walk? Do you need, then the 4th question, do you need anyone else to help you? Do you need, someone to look after someone else when you go for a walk? Do you need someone to go with you? Who else could help you if you do need anyone? And then how will you be held accountable? So who's going to know that you're doing this? Research shows that if you say something out loud, or if you tell someone else you're going to do something, you're much more likely you're going to do something. So to make a change to your life, they say you have to do it like something like 30 times before you can integrate it as a new habit. So how are you going to be held accountable? So I'm just going to give you like 3.5 minutes. So I'm going to sit here awkwardly. But if you could go through these questions, then you'll have a little plan of how you're going to improve your well-being. A couple of minutes left. Okay, just give you a few more seconds. Okay, so hopefully you've got a plan from those questions, and again, they're kind of coaching questions to try and, if you've ever had a coach, know that they're trying to like prompt you to think about something in detail to be more likely to make a change in your life. Yeah, and if you ever want to use this tool again, sometimes it might be nice to revisit it after you've tried to make some changes and think, is that rated higher in my life now or not? Has it made a difference? And then change things again if it does or if it doesn't. Okay, so I guess just to talk through a few other little ideas to promote well-being in the early years. I think the first one is just, as I've mentioned before, so important to prioritize your well-being and the support that you have around you, because without you feeling well and being able to not be overly stressed, you'll be so much better able to support all the people around you and who rely on you in your setting. And really, using the people that you have around you. I know it might be harder if you are working as a practitioner on your own, but your team or the people to really prioritize thinking and talking about well-being together. Something that's supposed to be really helpful within a setting or within a group of people is if you have one person who's like a well-being champion, they call, or like someone who's responsible for looking out for the well-being of a group of people, and getting everyone to be open about it, to be thinking about how it can be improved all the time, can really help. So sharing how you're feeling as well with other people, and asking if you need things, if you need support, and if you need a chat, if you need practical support, if the workload is getting too much, if you need a break. I know these things can be really difficult with the restrictions we've got on at the moment, but you need to voice it at least if you do need something. I've put the second bullet point, well-being tracking, and I've got on the right hand side that little example of someone tracking their mood. This might be for you or it might not be, but sometimes if you get the sort of general sense of I'm not happy or I'm stressed, but you can't quite put your finger on it, I know for some people what they've done is sort of track their feelings for the day. So on every hour they've kind of thought about, what's just happened and how do I feel, and just to get an overall sort of sense of how it fluctuates or changes over the day, and are there certain points where you think, actually, always after lunch I feel really good and rejuvenated, or it's always just at drop off time that I'm really stressed, or when we go out for school run or pick up, and think about, okay, if those are the crunch points or those are points where you're feeling low, do you need an energy boost? Do you need to somehow taking an extra break? Do you need to do things differently? And I know like it can be all consuming if you're working in the earliest to take a break, but there is this idea of sort of micro breaks. So like literally when you don't have any time, and I know like some single parents you know, especially with home learning at the moment, just if you don't have support, when do you get the time? So if you had this idea of micro breaks, so even just when you step, you know, for example, if you step outside with the children, or if the children are sat at a table doing something, taking a deep breath in and out, even just one breath, time for that, just focusing on you, can just be a little bit of a de-stressor. Thinking about just having a hot drink, if that's something that you like, or having like a nice something you really enjoy for a snack, having that integrated into your day. Or you know, I know that a story of a head teacher who was just so busy, never got any time for a break, literally didn't eat their lunch any day. And what they would do is every time they walked through a doorway, they would do a quick like body scan. You know, if you just think about sometimes a good way to do it is your jaw, your shoulders, your thighs, and your feet. Might be hard if you're walking, but those are often some of the points where we hold tension. So it's just like slacken your jaw, drop your shoulders, loosen your thighs and thigh muscles, like make sure your feet are firmly on the ground and relaxed. And just so those tiny little moments where if you're so busy and people need you all day long, find those micro moments to de-stress. There's this idea obviously of Hygge in the early years, which I'm sure all of you have heard of, and I know that this early years festival is going to focus a lot on, you know, nature, bringing that the outdoors indoors, about this feeling of an approach of, you know, your senses, and just having a cozy, nice feeling that you can have in the early years, and how positive that is to the children and for you. And so you know, you can, I'm sure there's probably, you know, you've already done the training or there's information out there for free, but there is also this Hygge in the early years course online, which I've just started looking at. It's only £5, and it's, you know, I think about it as thinking of the things that help you relax in the everyday, and trying to think, are there ways you can incorporate them into your setting or into your day-to-day routines to make things be a bit nicer. So I'm sure you're aware of all these things, but I'll just talk through a few examples, like, you know, lighting candles or having fairy lights to make the lighting nicer and gentle, having snuggly downtime with the children when you're reading books, or you're just saying to them this is the quiet time, or when they have their nap, you having some peaceful time for yourself as well. Being able to use scents, so either a diffuser or scented candles, essential oils, you know, all those things that typically, you know, you'd go to a spa to have to relax. Like, these are there ways you can bring them into your earlier settings, or even like your home in the evening, you know, so that you can properly have a really nice environment and relax a bit more easily. And obviously there's all these things about, you know, minimizing clutter and displays, so that you or the children don't get that sensory overload, and you can have that opportunity to just have a nice environment around you. And just, yeah, as you've probably heard, you know, nature is so good for your well-being, and being able to get outside, you know, it might not be as relaxing when you've got responsibility for a big group of children, but like I said, just having that moment to take some deep breaths, fresh air, maybe appreciate something around you, the sky, the colours of it, even if it's grey and rainy. Oh wow, that rain is sustaining us, it's making the plants grow and live. Sometimes, you know, gratitude isn't for everyone. I don't know really what I think about it, but sometimes gratitude is seen as a good thing for your well-being. And I just wanted to say another idea, which is kind of the middle picture. Like, these are often things that, you know, we might recommend for a teenager who's really stressed, but lots of adults have them as well. And I wonder if you have something like this, or you have one in your setting. I don't know about people sort of sharing it, but having like a little box or a little area that's just dedicated to your well-being. And it's quite a small picture there, I don't know if you can see it, but having things in there that really touch all your senses, So it might be like there's a colouring book there in that example, so something to focus you, and like a nice activity that takes your mind off other things or other worries, even like crosswords, Sudoku, whatever works for you. But yeah, having a little activity to do to calm you. There's some scented tissues in there. You can have like tea bags or something nice to eat, or often there's I think there's Tic Tacs. It's often like a nice sweet or something to suck. There's a diffuser with essential oils. There's some nice smelling hand cream. I don't know if you can see it, but next to the hand cream and the candle, there's like a little stone. It's got love on it, and you can buy those, but you can also just find them. And it's like a really nice smooth stone, something sensory to have in your hands that might help you calm. And I think they've also got a little jar which they've like put in there little messages of things that make them happy. And so there's whatever, it's about thinking about you, thinking about what helps you or your team in your setting, your senses, and putting them all in one place or a box, so that if you need a couple of moments or a few minutes, think, oh, actually, I'm going to go over there. I need to de-stress, or I need to just have some time to myself. And there's lots of things in there that can help prompt you. And sometimes even the box itself, I know people have decorated it really nicely, or put on their messages to themselves, or affirmations, like to remind themselves, like, you're doing a great job, you can do this, the things will get better, or anything that helps you sort of in a message. So the idea of having like a little wellbeing box. It reminded me of something else I was going to say there. Really sorry, that slipped my mind. But yeah, think about, is that something you could have in your setting or just in your home for you? That's like a nice little area that's all about you and your well-being. There we go. And I'd love to hear from you, like what other things you'd put in there as well, what's important to you and your well-being that could go in a box. So I guess, yeah, this is just coming to the end now, and kind of putting it over to you again, really, like what are the next steps? So in this webinar, I've shared that tool, the 5 ways to wellbeing. I wonder if you like that or not. There's so many other different models of wellbeing out there, if that one wasn't for you. Or you might even have your own one of like, actually, these are the 5 or another number key things that I need in my life to feel well, or that I need at work to feel good. And you could use that, your own model, your own list, to maybe once a fortnight, once a month, however often, once a day, however often you feel you need to kind of think, right, how is my well-being? What can I celebrate in terms of, being adults that work with young people? You are modeling to them every day how to look after yourself, how to nurture yourself, and how to accept support from others. So really, by focusing on your own well-being, you're doing a service to the young people, little ones that you work with as well. So thinking about how are you regularly going to think about and reflect on your well-being, and use that reflection to try and make practical steps where you can to improve things. And so to have a plan for ways in which to improve your well-being, hopefully either from that 5 ways to well-being, or from some of those things I just talked through. Do you have any other ideas or a plan for what you want to do to improve your well-being? Or if you're in a team, or if you have responsibility for staff as well, what are you going to do following this webinar to ensure that well-being can be improved and always have a focus and be prioritised? So I'd love to hear some of these ideas. It's such a shame that I'm not going to actually get to meet any of you or hear any of them, but hopefully in the Q&A, if you have any things you're going to commit to, I'd love to know about them, and any other ideas of things that help you or your team or your setting, because you're the experts in this already. We'd love to know and love to share them. Great. So I've finished a few minutes early, but I'm going to sign off, and look forward to hopefully chatting to some of you in the Q&A. All right. Bye.